And welcome again to Innovation Quest 2026. Today's speaker is going to talk about AI, the biggest technology change in your lifetime. And this is Dr. Mark Balbes, who has experience in AI and as well as nuclear engineering. And without further ado, let's hear from Mark. Oh, and when you can ask questions at the end, please. Okay. Thank
All
you.
right.
Mark?
Thanks, Ken. So yeah, I'm Dr. Mark Balbus. I'm a nuclear physicist, not a nuclear engineer. They're very different things. I've also got a long background in software development, and currently I serve as Chief Technology Officer at a company called Docuveris. I also have a long history with scouting. I've been a Cub Master and a Scout Master, as well as being a Scout when I was a kid. And today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, how it's changing the world, and specifically how it's changing how software development happens. So if you look around you, the world is changing rapidly because of the introduction of AI technologies into just about everything that we do. Getting a selection of music from your music service is using AI to figure out what you listen to and what you like and give you that next song that it thinks you're going to enjoy. We used to always talk about Googling for information, searching the web. Now people are going to ChatGPT or Claude or other large language model AIs uh, to find information more quickly. And if you think about it, using something like Google to do a web search is like walking into a library. You've got lots and lots of books, and Google is like the librarian that can point you to the books, but you still have to go read the books and extract the information. Whereas if you're using artificial intelligence, it's more like talking to a person who's read all of those books and can give you information from those books directly so that you don't have to do the reading yourself. So it's much faster, but you're going through the AI to get the information. You're not getting it directly from the source. And you also don't know whether the AI is giving you anything factually true or not. It's just spitting out what it's been trained on. So I want you to take a minute and think about what it might be like 10 years from now. So it's 2036. Artificial intelligence, even today, is being used throughout all the things we do in our lives. But what's going to happen over the next 10 years? So, what's your school going to be like when AI is integrated into everything? Or do you think it will be? Is AI just going to fizzle out and 10 years from now we'll be laughing about it? Haha, we thought AI would be a big thing. What jobs are going to exist? Are jobs going to go away? And we'll talk about programming and how the life of a programmer just in the last 6 months has changed dramatically. What technologies are you going to use? I remember when cell phones were first being introduced. I was on a camp out with my son. We were out at the parade grounds doing a morning flag ceremony. It was absolutely beautiful out and quiet, and you could hear the birds and the animals and the wind rustling through the trees. And all of a sudden, the cell phone started ringing. It was the first time I'd ever heard a cell phone on a camp out. They were very rare, but somebody had brought theirs, and I knew in that moment that the world had changed. And AI is very similar to that. You look at it and you can see how the world is changing. But AI, as much as it tries to look like you're talking to a person, it's not. AI is just pattern recognition, looking at lots and lots of data, but it doesn't have the same kind of context that humans have in understanding things and trying to make rational models in our heads about how things work. It's just really fast mathematical predictions and it's only as good as the data that it's trained on. And so there's this illusion of understanding with AI, right? For humans, when you're learning things, you're putting together a contextual model in your head. You're trying to figure out why is something working the way that it does, and how does that fit with everything else that you know in the world and how things work. AI doesn't do that. It's just lots and lots of data crunching and trying to make predictions based on that data. And so take an example of a person learning how to recognize a dog, and they'll see a few examples. They'll get a lot of information from, even if it's just images or a live dog, obviously they'll get even more information, but it doesn't take them a lot to intuitively grasp what a dog is. Whereas for a machine, it takes a lot of data, and even then, it could be learning the wrong lesson from the data that it's being trained with. It doesn't have any intuition. It doesn't have a mental model. It's trying to fit things in. It's just trying to make those predictions based on the data. And it gets it wrong. So here's an example. The military tried to train an AI to recognize enemy tanks. And they gave it a lot of data, and they showed them tanks in the field, and they showed them empty fields, and they trained the AI, and they started making predictions, and the predictions worked fantastically. And they analyzed what was going on, and they realized that the AI wasn't even looking at the tanks. It was looking at the sky, because pictures with the tanks tended to be on cloudy days, and pictures of the fields tended to be on bright days. And so all they'd done was build a really good weather detector, and the AI didn't even know about the tanks, even though it gave the illusion that it did. Here's another example, very similar, trying to train an AI to identify a wolf versus a husky, a breed of dog. And again, the AI ignored the animals and instead focused on the background. The wolves tended to be in snow, and the dogs were nice, backyards. And so it could tell based on that. Now, as a human, you know intuitively the important part of the photo is the animal that's in the photo. That's the subject of the photo. That's what you would look at. And in fact, as a human, you might not even remember whether there was snow on the ground or there was green grass. You'd just be thinking about how cute that dog is and how scary that wolf looks. But the AI doesn't know. It doesn't have that kind of lived context. Similarly, in medicine, they were doing an experiment to train an AI to recognize cancerous skin lesions from photographs. And what the AI learned was that it got the answer right when there was a ruler in the picture, not even looking at the skin lesion, because the physicians tended, when they took a photograph of the skin lesion, if it was really bad, they'd put a ruler next to it to show how big it was. And if it wasn't bad, they wouldn't have the ruler. So it learned the wrong thing, even though the answers it was giving said it was doing a great job. So this isn't new behavior. This idea of getting the right answer, but kind of cheating, doing it without even solving the problem that's put in front of you. And there's a story of Clever Hans. Clever Hans was a horse, and around 1900, it looked like Clever Hans knew how to do mathematics, that he could actually do complex calculations. And his owner would ask him a question like, what's 3 plus 4? Hans would stomp on the ground. He'd give 7 and stop. He'd stomp 7 times. And there you go. He got the answer. But what was the horse actually doing? Well, it turned out that his owner, when Hans got to the right answer, his owner would visibly relax. And the horse was cueing off of his owner and the posture of his owner. Nothing to do at all with getting the math right. It was actually his owner that was doing the math. So, it kind of comes to the question of who's thinking. We understand that people think is is the AI actually thinking? So as humans, we have an underlying concept, an underlying understanding of the world. We're piecing it all together. We use our intuition and that context to figure out the right answers to things. And we do have blind spots. We have cognitive bias. If our mental model is off, we'll try to fit things into that mental model. And then if it doesn't fit, maybe that changes our mental model, or maybe we just don't accept the answer properly. With artificial intelligence, it's just doing math. It's looking at background pixels or other data that's being fed to it to train it. You give it lots and lots of data, and it figures out how to get the answer. But it doesn't figure it out the way we might think, like we just saw with identifying tanks or wolves or skin lesions. It triggers off of something and it gets a reward in the training. When it gets it right, the model gets rewarded, and that gives it its feedback. And as long as it's getting the right answer, it doesn't care whether it gets the right answer the right way, which means as soon as that other thing that it trained itself on isn't there, as soon as a ruler's not in the picture or it's not a snowy background, it's going to start getting the wrong answers. So the story of Clever Hans is used a lot by AI researchers. It's just a good way to show that it's not just the AI that does things like that, but you can get to the right answer even if you don't understand the task that you're being asked to do. So AI is in lots of different areas. Medicine, we're doing research and able to get to answers faster using AI, but obviously you have to also vet the answers that AI is giving you. You can't just start making medicine based on AI. You have to do all the rigor of the science behind it. But it could point to potential solutions that maybe people wouldn't think of, or narrow down possible solutions of what you would want to test first. With transportation, we keep hearing about our autonomous cars. I'm still waiting for our flying cars. Those haven't come yet, but it seems like that might be soon. And that's all enabled by artificial intelligence. Entertainment, algorithmic recommendations are just about in every app that we get entertainment from. And then in science, helping us to discover and investigate things faster or new things that maybe we wouldn't have thought about. So the same thing is true in writing software. Artificial intelligence now has gotten really good at writing code. And I'm going to I'll show you a demo of that in just a second. The the way that we used to write software, it was a manual process. There were tools to help us write it, but it was writing people helped the software faster. So you had to type out the code, you had to know what code to write, and people tended to solve the problem that was in front of them, but maybe there were things that they didn't do quite as well as they needed to. For example, what happens if something goes wrong in your code? If the input isn't what you expect, and your code might crash because of it. You have a bug in your code. AI today is doing all of that for us. And I said that the job of programmers has changed in the last 6 months. 6 months ago, we were writing code ourselves. We were helped a little bit by AI. Today, my software developers don't write any code themselves. Everything is being generated by the AI, which means that their job changes because now what they're doing is they're directing the AI, but they're the ones who solve the problem. The AI is just doing the more manual aspect of writing the code. So, oops, sorry about that. So nowadays, building software, and it's not about sitting there typing out code into a file. It's about having a conversation with the AI and having it generate the code. So let's see an example of that. So I've got here ChatGPT up on the right-hand side. I've got my web browser in the middle. And on the left-hand side, I've got a file where I can paste code into. And by the way, everything that I'm doing here is something that you can do on your computer at home. I'm not logged into ChatGPT. I haven't paid for this. I just went to chatgpt.com and this is what comes up. And then the web browser is part of your operating system, and you just need some kind of a text editor. So on Windows, it could be Notepad. This is a Mac, so this is TextEdit. But those are just text editors that come with your computer. So I'm going to talk to the AI. I'm not going to give it anything technical. So what we want to do is build a tic-tac-toe game. So I want to build a tic-tac-toe game. It should run in a browser and support 2 players. Maybe that's good enough. I could tell it more, but let's see what it does. So I barely gave it anything, but it's generating HTML, which is the language of a web page, of the web browser. I'm going to copy that text and I'm going to paste it in and save it. And now I'm going to, this is the web browser view of the page on the left. I just had this set up in advance. So if I refresh the page, here's what it generated. From just that, 2 sentences, now I can play a tic-tac-toe game. And I lost. I should have made it so I won. So there you go. Player X wins. That's not very exciting. So let's do something more with this. I want to have a line drawn through the winning squares. Give me the full code for this. So normally ChatGPT would just give me the changes in the code, and I don't want to have to figure out where those changes are. So I've just asked it for the full code. So I copy it. I'm going to replace my existing code with the new code, save it, refresh the screen. Here's my tic-tac-toe. Oh, it didn't do a good job, did it? Let's see if we can fix that. So I'm going to take this is actually new territory. It didn't do this before. I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to give that screenshot to ChatGPT. Oh, and it's not going to let me do it. I was playing with this earlier today. Apparently I used up all my free image uploads. But what I would have done is upload the image to ChatGPT so it could actually see it. The red line is not aligned properly with the winning squares. Fix it and give me all the code. So you can just keep iterating and go crazy. So the alignment issue comes from using hard-coded coordinates. So it's telling me the problem. It makes the fix. I can go back and paste that in. Let's see if it does it. Hey, all right. So now it works. Now we can get fancier. So I want to use a fleur de lis from Scouts for the X's and a what do we want for the other one? A fleur-de-lis and a scout sign for the O's. So this is the way we program now. Now, this is very primitive. We have much more um, complicated tools. Oh, so now what it's doing is it's telling me I need to provide it with the images, and it's telling me how to make that change. So I could make it more sophisticated, but we're not going to do that now. So when someone wins, show a big "you win" banner. We'll do that. I don't want to, it's telling me to merge it all in. I'm just going to tell it to give me the full code. Oh, it's still trying to use the fleur-de-lis. But I'm just talking to it. In fact, I could use this little microphone here and I could actually just talk directly to it instead of typing things out. So let's see what it does. It may still be thinking. All right. Well, I hit some kind of a limit or something. It's not taking my message. Um, okay. Well, let's just go back to the talk then, but you get the idea. We could actually turn this into a a single player game where you play against the browser. That was going to be my next step for this. Okay, let me bring my presentation back up. There we go. Okay, so we talked about that AI only knows what it's trained on. You have to be really careful. People can use it for bad things. Not only can the AI do things like hallucinate and give you really weird answers, totally incorrect, but people can use it for doing things like making deep fakes, audio, video, and images that look like they're real. And this is a new thing in our society. We've always before been able to look and see that something has been faked. In fact, that's what my company does, as that's our product is to be able to identify fake documents. But the AI is getting better and better at generating those fakes. And then the other thing is to be aware that any data that you feed into the AI is going to be used to train that AI, and you lose control of it. So never put information into the AI that you don't want the entire world to know. So don't put passwords in, don't put in financial data or, your phone number or anything like that. So folks are worried about artificial intelligence. It's that it's going to take all the jobs, it's going to replace people. We've been through these kinds of changes historically, and that's never been the case. There has been short-term upheaval. Sorry, I'm trying to get rid of there we go. Um, from technologies, but things usually um, it makes more jobs, not fewer. They're just different. And so in the 1800s, when they started getting tractors that replaced plows, we still needed farmers, and we have farmers today. In the 70s, calculators replaced slide rules, um, which my father, who was a math professor, was very excited about at the time. I remember that. It didn't replace the people. In the 90s, we got computers and who were like typists. It's like it was going to replace typewriters. But it didn't replace the office workers. In fact, it created more work because we could do more with computers than you could without them. And so AI is replacing repetitive tasks, but even for things like software development, we still need our experienced software developers because they know what needs to be built. They know how to build something that can be scalable. If you're going to build a system that millions of people are going to use, you obviously can't do what I was showing you earlier today. So for people, it's really about things like having critical thinking skills, being creative, providing effective communication, providing leadership, being able to solve hard problems and know how to break them up. You can ask the AI to solve a problem, but if it's too big, it won't be able to do it. But if you know how to break that problem up into smaller problems, then the AI might be able to help you solve it, or you solve it on your own. And then, of course, you need people to think about ethics because the computers don't know anything about human ethics. That's a people thing. So it can do the mundane things, but all of the things here are things that scouting teaches you and are part of the scouting mission and the scout oath and law. So you're the human in the loop. And you have to realize artificial intelligence, it's a very powerful tool. It's not perfect. It's going to give you the wrong answers, and it's going to be really confident that when it tells you something and that something could be completely wrong. So, as a person, you have to use AI responsibly. You have to know its strengths and its weaknesses, but ultimately you're responsible for what comes out of your work products. If you're doing homework, if you're doing a job and using AI, you can use it and it can help you, but the person needs to be responsible for it. So my final advice to you is lean in to AI. It's here, it's going to be used, but learn how to use it responsibly, learn what it's used well for and what it can't do. Don't use it as a replacement for thinking about things. You have to think about things as a person. And then final thing I wanted to tell you is this presentation was created entirely with AI. I'm a real person. I'm not a deep fake, but I used ChatGPT. I chatted back and forth with it to generate the outline of what I wanted this talk to be. So again, the basics of it came from me, but the different examples that I gave you came from ChatGPT. I took that outline and I fed it into another tool called Notebook LM from Google. And Notebook LM generated all of these slides. I never touched these slides. And it certainly made much nicer slides than I could possibly create. And then I took the slides and I fed them back into ChatGPT and I asked it to create the talking points for all of these slides. And then once I had all of that, I went through and I curated it, I edited it, I took out slides that I thought were repetitive, and I put together the coding demonstration, which was using AI. So AI was every part of this presentation. And I hope that was interesting, and thank you for listening.